Friday. Welcome to Finance Friday, where we give you all the information that you need to help you grow and protect your wealth or money if you're still trying to build your wealth. I'm Amy Novakovich. I'm a certified financial planner and a chartered retirement planning counselor at Nova Wealth Management here in Southwest Florida. Today, we are going to be talking about all things college savings in light of all the student loan buzz that's going on. Let's talk about how to save for college. Share this out, share it in Messenger, however you can. Like us on Facebook. Check out our YouTube channel. I have a bunch of little short videos there, as well as Instagram. So be sure to check out Nova Wealth Management on those platforms. Okay, so I have 4 different ways that you could go about this. They're all very different. So what I'm going to do is go over the pros and the cons and when you would use that method and why. And then also some people do a combination of them all. So we'll get into that a little bit. If you have questions, please post comments. I love answering them live. If I could see them. Actually, I don't even know if I can see them. Oh, maybe I can. Facebook Live looks different now. They changed it. So nothing like realizing this right when I'm already live, right? I mean, no big deal. So I will hopefully get to your comments just by seeing it on my Facebook right here. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Yeah, I have it. So go ahead and comment away if you have any questions and I can answer them right here. Or you feel free to message us privately. That's totally fine too. Okay. Number 1. One of the more popular ways in Florida anyways, I'll probably cover this fairly quickly because not everybody that watches this is in Florida. But some states have a Florida prepaid, or they don't have a Florida prepaid, they would have a prepaid college program. So the Florida prepaid college program works by, you can either pay monthly payments or lump sum, and then you have different things that you can choose. I actually printed this. So you can actually go to their website, which is what? I don't know. Google Florida prepaid. And you can look at all the different plans. So they have like a 2-year Florida college plan, a 4-year Florida college plan, not to be confused with a university plan. And there's, by the way, 12 universities in Florida and there's 28 colleges in Florida. So if you went with the college plan, you would get to choose one of the 28 Florida colleges that we have. There's a 2+2 plan. So there's a blended plan. And again, you can pay lump sum, which is all up front, or you can pay in payments. I printed out an example here just to give you an idea. If this doesn't apply to you, again, go online and look at what age your child is. But this is for a kindergarten age child. And if you made 151 payments, which again is supposed to be through their high school career, the lump sum 4-year Florida college plan would be $17,708 if your child is in kindergarten. So those of you just joining me, this is for a child in kindergarten. Then, if you made monthly payments, it'd be $142.88 per month. Now, the good with this is that you're prepaying tuition, meaning that if the cost of tuition goes way up, guess what? They pay the difference. They take on that risk. Now, the risk you take on is, what if your child doesn't want to go to a Florida college? What if your child doesn't want to go to college at all? So you have some risk there because you can get the money back, but it doesn't have much interest. There's a little interest on there. They're changing that interest rate around, so I don't have the exact interest rate, but it's not a lot. And then also it only covers tuition. I think there is... It might have cut off. I think there is a way you can prepay for like the whole thing, like books and room and board and a meal plan and all that fun stuff. But again, we don't know if your child is going to go to college. You can't transfer that to another child. So that's kind of a disadvantage if your child ends up, again, not going to college or going to a trade school. Trade school would also fall, or just goes for some sort of a designation, like a CFP, like a certified financial planner, something like that would not be covered. So there's that risk there. So again, those of you who are not in Florida, that's why I'm moving along here. So hopefully you just skipped ahead past this part. But that's the Florida prepaid. Now, the second way to do this is a 529 plan. A 529 plan is where you put away as much as you want, usually, even if you wanted to do $25 a month. Their mutual funds usually have a minimum. Mutual funds, if you're not familiar, are an investment, just a big bunch of investments pooled together. So what you would do is you would put your money into a company like like a BlackRock or an American Funds. put your money into these companies, you pick the investments, right? And so the money is invested over time. And all those gains, all the money that you make over 18 years if your child is a baby, is tax-free if used for any type of college expenses. So it can be used for tuition, for room and board, for meals, things of that nature, and it is tax-free. Now, another positive is it can also be transferred. So should that child not want to go to college, you can transfer this to another child. Let's say you have this child has a sibling or a grandchild. If they have a baby, you can transfer it to the other child. So you can keep it in the family. You can transfer it to another beneficiary, as they would call it, and that way the money isn't completely lost. The one downside, I would say, well, of course, there's risk with investments, right? I want to get that out there. There's, of course, risk with investing. But the other downside, I would say, is if you need the money for other things, let's just say you can't afford it anymore, you want to tap into it. If you're going to take the money out and it's not for college expenses, there will be taxes on the gains and there will be a 10% penalty. So it can be kind of harsh if you put this money away and you need to tap into it. And again, if you don't have anybody to transfer it to and your child doesn't go to college, that's rare. Most people have somewhere to transfer it. But if you don't, that definitely happens. I mean, I'm an only child, so that definitely happens. And I didn't have children until I was a little older. Still young, but just when I was older, like 30. So I don't know if you'd be able to transfer it all the time necessarily. In that case, you might want to take it out and then you would pay the taxes and you would pay the penalty. So 529 is fabulous, as is the Florida prepaid. They all have their pros and cons. Now, to combat that, to say, hey, well, what if my child doesn't go to college? Or what if my child starts a business? I want to give them this money to start their business. Or I've even had some clients that their son or daughter wants to just go into real estate, start investing in real estate. Well, you need a down payment for these properties, right? So actually, you know what, guys? I'm going to share this out right now. I think I can totally do this on my personal page. Oh, yes, I totally can. So yeah, if you're just joining us, share this out because this is, again, all the buzz going on about student loans and having not enough money for college and college being so expensive. These are ways that we can definitely get ahead of it. So we want to be proactive. If we feel like there's a problem, to fix the problem, we have to be proactive to make sure it doesn't keep occurring. So I thought this would be timely. Okay, that's shared out. Continuing on. So to combat all the problems of the 529 and the Florida prepaid, which is, what if my child doesn't go to college, or what if I want to use it for other things? Now, there's two other ways that you can go about this. You can open what is called an UTMA account or an UGMA account, Uniform Transfer to Minor account. Some states have the UGMA, which is the same exact thing. They're both a minor investment account. So what you can do is you can open up an account in the name of the child's social security number. What this does for you is this doesn't get rid of all taxes, but it does give you kiddie tax laws, which means there's a certain dollar amount. I think it's like $5,000. Probably should have looked that up before I came on here, right? It's, if you can Google it, the kiddie tax laws, the child tax exemption. The first, let's call it $5,000, is exempt. For first $5,000 of gains, let me say, you can put in the money that you want, but the money that is made is called a gain. The gains would be tax-free, unless your child is a childhood model and they make a lot of money, then they'd owe taxes on those gains, but most children don't have an income. So when the first $5,000, again, just calling it that, is taxed at the child's tax rate, it is nothing, right? So that's huge. So unless you're putting in a ton of money in these things, $5,000 in gains can be controlled with someone who manages gains and losses, which can offset each other. So you should be all right with that there, again, depending on how much you're putting into it. So essentially you have either deferred tax or you have no tax. Down the road, if your child goes to use it for something other than college, guess what? They can. if they want to use it for a wedding, if they want to use it to buy a home, like I mentioned, all these different reasons, right? The downside to an UTMA or a minor account is that every state has what they call the age of maturity. Not age of majority, maturity. In Florida, it's 21. So at 21, me as an advisor, I have to send a letter to the now adult child, and I have to say, I am opening an account and I am transferring this money to you. So for those that don't want their child to get a lump sum of money, maybe you have a trust. There's different things that you can do. Let me just say that I necessarily shouldn't get into on a live because it's very individualized advice, but you can do different things to make sure that doesn't happen. Putting it in trust for the child, for example, if that's appropriate for you. That can avoid that. However, it is kind of that process, so you would have to be proactive before the child turns 21. So that's the downside, right? And then investing doesn't have any guarantees. So I guess it just depends on what you invested in, that hopefully it would grow over time. That's the goal. But there's risks in investing. So maybe we have this huge collapse right before your child goes to use the money and the money cuts in half. You know, these types of things is definitely, like if you would have invested it right before 2008, 2009, it might have cut in half right before your child goes to use the money. So you want to have a long-term time horizon if you're going in more aggressive investments, since they do go up and down. Over time, history shows that it comes back. And so you want to hold on to it, but you have to have the time frame to hold on to it. So there's risks. Again, there's pros and cons with everything. So what I might do with a client that says, you know, I don't know if I want my child to go to college, or I don't know if my child will go to college. Not necessarily what you want, but I just don't know if my child will go to college. So you could do a little bit of both. You could do some in an UTMA, some in a 529, or some in prepaid, some in an UTMA. You can do a blend of these because that way you're covered should the child want to do something else other than college. And I do have several clients that do this. It definitely works out, and some accounts will do better than others, so you're diversifying yourself. There's a lot of good reasons to do a little bit of both. And that way it's also just another savings for you, right? To have some money set aside for the unknown for the child, whatever it may be. So the UTMA can be used for any of that. So it definitely gives you some flexibility and peace of mind. So that brings me to my last option. Again, if you are just hopping on, let me recap really fast. We're going over different ways to save for college and when you would use each type of investment account, let's say. So first, I talked about the Florida prepaid and then the 529. So if you need to scroll back and go watch those sections, that would be fine. And then I talked about an UTMA, which is a uniform transfer to minor account. The last one is the most flexible, I would say. So I have had some clients, let me take a quick drink here, that I spilled all over the place earlier. I have had clients that don't know what they want to do at all. They don't know if they necessarily want to save for the child's college. They sometimes go back and forth thinking, well, I want to save for us because what if my child gets bright futures? Or what if my child is super smart and does the dual enrollment before they graduate and there just isn't a lot of college cost overall? What if they get a full scholarship for sports? There's a lot of unknowns, right? So I have some families that say we kind of want a savings plan for us, but we'll designate it, you know, child college savings, but we keep it in the parent's name. So it's a plain investment account with the child as the beneficiary. So now this is taxed at normal income tax rates. Well, shouldn't say that. At your capital gains tax rate according to your income. There's definitely some videos that I have on taxation. There's a lot in taxation that I could cover, so I won't dig into that too much today. But so if you have capital gains, if you make money on your investments, you pay capital gains tax. Now, gains can be offset with losses. And again, I have a whole YouTube video on offsetting gains and losses. We call it tax loss harvesting. Harvesting the losses in the account to offset gains, and then just buying the same type of investment with a different company avoids the wash sale rule, getting a little deep. There are ways to lessen your tax burden. Let's say it like that. So you would invest in a regular investment account. You would go to your investment institution. Let's say you are with Raymond James, Fidelity, any of them, doesn't matter. With us, you would say, hey, I want to open an account that I want to kind of designate for my child's college. However, I want to keep it in my name just because I want the flexibility, and I don't want it to automatically go to them at 21. So we're going to open up an account. It's separate. Again, noted, this is for the child's college, and in the financial planning, we put that as an education goal, right? When I'm doing the financial plan, I put that aside as an education goal, and we save for education, and we save for what we think will be the cost of college. However, should the money need to be used for you, you can just pull it right back out. Or should the child take a few years off of school and then go to college? Age 21 doesn't matter now. So you've got a lot of flexibility. Again, the downside is it depends on what you invest in, and the downside is you now have to control taxes. So we have a lot of different levels of how to save for college, and hence trying to lessen the chance that we will need student loans. I know a lot of you out there, and nobody out there is going to drag me into a political conversation, but I know a lot of you out there are thinking about this whole student loan forgiveness thing, or some of you might not be eligible for the forgiveness because you make too much money, so people over a certain income level will not receive the forgiveness. So there's a lot of thoughts on how do we fix this problem of education being expensive, and then some people not using their degree, some people not finishing college. There's a lot of moving pieces to this. The only thing that I will say on this video is that if you can get ahead of it for your kids, we can start to break this problem ourselves instead of relying on government to solve it, whether you approve of what they did or not. So you can keep it in your control, and I would highly suggest you do. We've got many options of how we can save and try to break this for our kids if we have the ability. If you don't have the ability, you can take this video and be an educated person and go to a parent and say, hey, instead of buying toys and gifts every year, hey, would you mind helping me fund something like this? Or an aunt, or an uncle, or a godparent. I mean, there's a lot of ways you guys can do this. You got to get creative so we can save for what we might think would be a burden on our children, on the next generation, and that way we don't have to worry as much about this overall student loan issue. Now, if you do want to talk to me about your student loans, I do have some ideas on paying down student loans, consolidating student loans. I can come up with a financial plan on how to pay them off. So that's a totally different video. I would suggest actually that you just contact me one-on-one to talk about that type of financial planning instead of me talking in public about it, since that's a very general thing to talk about, but it's a very specific to each and every situation. So again, contact me if you have questions about student loans, but I hope you learned something in this video today about the 4 different ways to save for college. There's certainly just a savings account. Some people do savings bonds. I personally just like these 4 ways, and so I guess that's why I'm trying to keep the video shorter. Sorry, still 18 minutes, but on what you can do. But there are even other options outside of this. So if you don't like any of these and you think, I still want to do something, but I don't like any of your ideas, just reach out to me and we'll try to find a solution for you. We'll get creative. All right, guys, thanks so much. Have an amazing weekend, and I hope to keep doing these weekly again, just like I used to before COVID for years. So hopefully we'll keep doing this weekly. But thanks so much and have a great day.